So I wanted to go to the airborne, and at least a bare minimum, I wanted to be airborne because that was the next step. Any special operations operator, ranger, SEALs, everyone's got to be airborne to take the next step. And I was like, well, if I do the next steps, I need to at least have the base. And so when I became airborne and jumped out of an aircraft for the first time, I didn't have my eyes open. I was singing as loud as I could in my head, and probably out loud too, courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue by Toby Keith. There was no way I could have done it if I was standing the number one jumper. I don't know what my heart would have done at that moment.
Ben, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Hey, so you have a very crazy background and one that I get vertigo just thinking about, but talk a little bit about how you first entered the military. What went on? What was your decision making process at that time? And talk a little bit about your career in the military.
Absolutely. So I knew I wanted to join the military when I was about 5-6 years old. My family took me to a Veterans Day parade, and I saw somebody salute apparently, and I just, mimicked them as children. And so that was the fascination. It began from there. At that time would have been, Vietnam veterans, mostly in that parade, a few of the Desert Shield, Desert Storm guys, things like that. My dad served in the military, but not while I was alive. I have a very long background all the way to the Spanish-American War of a family member serving in some form of combat for the U.S. military. On the Spanish-American War, we were on the other side, unfortunately. But anyhow, no, I decided to join the military. It was after 9/11. I was already trying to get into the military and before 9/11 happened, but both my parents wouldn't sign the under 17 or under 18 contract. And so 9/11 happened, unfortunately. I was a high schooler, senior, walking home from school that day, and watched everything go down. And as soon as I could get into the military, I attempted to, which was December of 2002. And so signed a contract. Really wanted to go into special forces. I wanted to be in the Air Force as a PJ, because those guys are just absolutely top notch. Everything they, just saving lives on the battlefield and doing just the most amazing things. And even today when I get to work with those guys, it's just absolutely the greatest honor. So I wanted to go do that, but at the time they didn't have a direct pipeline, and the recruiter basically said, no, if you want to do any of these special tactics units or anything like that, you have to have a job in the Air Force first, and then you get a chance to go. And I'd heard of people getting the opportunity to go, but I've also heard of people saying, hey, I joined the military to get into one of the elite units, but my company commander or my flight commander was like, absolutely not. And so that worried me.
If you don't have a contract, you're sort of at their mercy, right?
Yes. Yeah. Even if you do, and if you fail any individual piece of that contract, so say, you get hurt at airborne school, or you end up in any form or facet where you just can't produce in one particular school, you become needs of that service very quickly. And later on down the road in my career, I got to see that for a bunch of unfortunate guys. And so I didn't want to do that. I went to each branch of the service and really wanted to kind of choose my job. And I went to the Navy, I went to the Marine Corps. Marine Corps was like, hey, man, we're going to choose your job. That's just the way it is. I was like, God, this is horrible. And at the time, and they were pumping people into the military at this time because, again, 9/11 just happened. The Army was one of the few that were like, hey, we'll absolutely give you the job you want. It took me a while to realize what I wanted to do, and I came in as a combat engineer, an airborne guy. And I went to, as soon as I could ship out, the earliest date was August of 2003, shipped out to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and began my journey at one station unit training at Fort Leonard Wood as a 12 Bravo. And I loved every moment of learning to be a soldier and everything until the day one of the instructors walked into the front of the class and he's like, welcome to 206 Bottom. Here at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, you're now about to learn about landmine warfare and how to in place and remove landmines. And I was like, I think I'm in the wrong class. This wasn't in the brochure.
Yeah.
And so that was probably the gut check moment for me in that course, was in placing a live landmine and removing things like that. I did not want to do that ever again. Unfortunately, that's the job title at the time. And so went right from there, went to Fort Benning, Georgia for airborne school, caught pneumonia at as I was leaving Fort Leonard Wood, I caught pneumonia and unfortunately was passed out on the run, and I became a holdover in the whole month of December. Came back in January, knocked it out, got airborne school done, and then came out of Fort Bragg, North Carolina, where I currently am, and was with the 307th Engineer Battalion out of the 82nd. And I was stoked because I was they were getting ready to go to Iraq at the time. And I was like, this is what I signed up for. Let's roll. And about a week and some change it had gone by after I'd gone through reception, gone through everything. So I'm about a month on this base, and I get called into the Sergeant Major's office, and they say, "Hey, how do you spell your name?" Like, kind of looked down at the name tag on my chest, and I was like, "It's kind of like right there." But and the Sergeant Major's like, "Don't be a clown. I want to know, do you have a space in your name?" I said, "Yes." So what they had done was they had made 2 files for me originally. And so one of them went to 307th, and the other one with my name pushed together went to the 37th Engineer Battalion, which is 20th Engineer Brigade here, still at Fort Bragg. And so he goes, "Hey, man, we're ripping out. I don't have time to deal with this stuff. You're going to them." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, they were just coming back from Iraq. So now instead of being the guy that, the newbie that is getting ready to go and doesn't know anything, I'm the newbie that didn't go and wasn't there.
Right. All because of a space or a lack of a space in your name.
Yep, absolutely. And so anyway, I ended up with 37th Engineer Battalion. To be an Eagle, it's just such great following. I know the 82nd is such a big monster and it pumps out a lot of people, but the 20th Engineer Brigade, when I got there, had this T-shirt that really put into my heart what it meant to be a soldier. And it said, "The sun never sets on the 20th Engineer Brigade," because we have units deployed all over the world at all times, whether it be combat faceted, whether it be geospatial engineering, whether it be vertical, horizontal engineering. We're always on the move. And it was probably one of the coolest moments of my life to see that and go, yeah, I joined the right group. This is going to be awesome. So rotated in Afghanistan. One of the longer deployments for a unit, because we sent an ADVON unit rather early, 3 months early, compared to most units that don't do that. And so the 37th Engineer Brigade actually served in Afghanistan from the end of 2005 to about mid 2007. They had someone still boots on ground somewhere there. And so we did route clearance for the first time ever really truly hearing about anything like that. As an engineer, we were just taught mount training, which is, urban operations, breach doors, breach walls, clear buildings, HVTs. We were continually training all the time for mount training. And we get into Afghanistan, they're like, "Oh, by the way, you're not doing that. Here are these vehicles out of South Africa. They're ambush protected, mine resistant, and you're going to go around basically as the canary in the coal mine and look for explosive devices in or on the side of the roads." So we drove what was called at the time the Meerkat, which a lot of guys don't know if they're kind of mid-GWAT guys. The Meerkat was a manual transmission version of what is now known as the Husky. It's a single driver, and it's just a metal detector. So you have a metal detector, kind of like what you look at the beach, a little tone going off in your ear, and you're just looking for metal components of explosive devices. And the metal detectors, the little actual detection devices, are directly underneath you. So by the time you find it, it's under you.
Yeah, that sounds problematic.
Yeah. So during that time, we traveled all over the Patika province, little into Wardak, but a lot of the Patika. We were over there in Fob Sharana. Unfortunately, we lost an amazing leader. Just one of those guys that when you're on your last dip and you're like, "Hey, does anyone have any?" He would hand his last pinch of anything, knowing that you're going to be out for another 4 or 5 days. His last drink of water he'd give to any soldier. Just absolutely top tier human, even if you weren't in his company. I was never in this man's company, but he treated every soldier as if they were directly underneath him. And his name is First Sergeant Christopher Rafferty. There's a field here at Fort Bragg named after him now, but he was just an amazing man, and his last breath was leading soldiers. We received 72 rockets one night onto Fob Sharana, and as they were going off, he was literally pulling people out of the wood buildings to get them into the concrete bunkers, and was leading people because there was no lights. It was completely dark, so they couldn't see. So he's trying to direct people in the chaos, and he caught a piece of shrapnel straight through the back of the neck. And he died there, unfortunately. But his last breath was all about his soldiers. And I just, you know, to see one of the best go at that time, you kind of look at yourself and go, and I'm just the rest of the people. What do I do now?
Yeah, that's heavy, man.
That puts a lot into you. So, we all fought the rest of that tour for that man and for everything. You try to, when you lose somebody like that, there's a lot of anger, and you have to put a lot of that aside. And it taught a lot of us. I was just an E4 specialist at the time, but the leadership to not go crazy and to absolutely just want to destroy everything taught me a lot of patience, and which obviously we all hear is a virtue. And it was probably one of the first lessons I learned as a leader. And what we call a tactical pause, and trying to build that moment of like, okay, hang on. I know I'm upset. I know everything's going on, but what's the best for everybody?
Because it's hard when you're looking to the leader and you see the leader's panicked. You know what I mean? Or he's rattled or she's rattled. That doesn't do much, as far as strengthening your resolve, right? I mean, you want to look to that guy who's calm, cool, and collected, and that's going to help at least put you at ease. It's almost comparable to you're riding on an airplane, and the stewardess, I don't know if flight attendant is the more appropriate word these days, I guess. The flight attendant starts freaking out, then you could probably freak out, and maybe you wouldn't, but I would. But that's interesting, man, and it's great that answers a lot of the questions. A lot of what I wanted to talk to you about is leadership, and you're hitting on already some of the great mentors and leaders that you had that kind of influenced your leadership ability or your leadership style. And these guys, I could tell just from you talking about them, are not just leaders because they have a certain rank. They're leaders because in their heart, that's what they do. And they put their people in front of themselves. There's no more dramatic example than the one that you gave. But even to a lesser degree, in the civilian world, just being a leader, I don't think is really that hard. I mean, to be a great leader is probably pretty difficult. But if you just put your people first and you're genuine about that, you're going to have buy-in. I mean, these dudes are going to want to walk over hot coals for you. And, like the leader that you spoke of and several others, I mean, you don't want to let that person down. It's not that you feel you're going to get in trouble or you're going to get hurt. It's that you don't want to let that person down. So that way you're voluntarily doing your best. The leader doesn't have to be a hard ass because he has leadership ability that's getting that voluntary buy-in from the people who know that he's looking out for them. And that's a great relationship when you got that.
Absolutely. And I can tie a lot of specific characteristics of my leadership in almost every situation to an individual moment or person that really taught me. Unfortunately, my first marriage was the standard military marriage of I deployed and she'd found somebody else. It was really heartbreaking. I wanted very, very much to end my life at that time, but a brand new lieutenant to the Army, took me aside, said, he saw that I was down. He said, "Hey man, you're going to be with me. And if anyone says anything, you come and talk to me and this and that." So, I became his driver for a bit. And he is now a lieutenant colonel. His name is French Pope III. I believe he's headed back to the Pentagon right now. He just left command, but the way he treated me, and I don't want to say it was with kid gloves, maybe some folks will, but he took me aside and just made sure that I understood that I was a part of a team. And if I did something to leave that team, whether it be hurt or kill myself, that I would be hurting the team. And not that it's that's all that matters. But it would be a detrimental hurt of a long time. People would take it in,
Yeah.
and not be able to recover from that, from my teammates, my squad mates, and everyone else. And no one wants to be a trendsetter in that aspect of like, hey, look, this is the easy way out, or I just can't
Yeah.
do it. And so he brought that, and then exactly what you said about leading. I had a Staff Sergeant Strassels was one of those guys that taught me that if you treat people with respect and you give them a fair amount of work, but you work hard for them as well, that they will do what is necessary for you. And I took that into the civilian world with a couple of the companies that I have started and nonprofits that I work for and things. And I have very loyal. I hate the word employee. There are people that do work for me. They work with me alongside of me because I don't like to sit back and not work. And we travel the world currently packing parachutes for Round Canopy Parachute teams, for SF teams, for big skydive boogies and things like that. Most recently, last year we were in the 80th anniversary of D-Day. This year I couldn't go because apparently my wife wanted me to be here when our kid was born because we just got a new baby girl a couple weeks ago.
Well,
And
congratulations, brother. Yeah. That's
thank
awesome.
you. So she vetoed the trip.
Nice. I don't blame her in that instance. I want to talk about your companies, but before that, I want to talk a little bit about jumping out of airplanes and when that sounded like a great idea to you. Like, when was the first time you did that, and what was that like?
So never. This has never been a good idea. I will tell you that I don't believe in perfectly good airplanes, number one, so I enjoy having a parachute. I was a child of divorce, so I flew a lot when I was a kid, back and forth between parents. I never enjoyed it. But I had a fear of heights, honestly, 100% had a fear of heights. And I was like, I'm going to get over this. I'm going to go to airborne school. And one of the reasons is I really wanted to be with not just the military, but the next level of volunteer. Because just to come in the military, I mean, you remember the old stories. People say, oh man, I had a choice to go to jail or join the military, and they threw me in the Army or they threw me in the Marines. And that still happens today in a lot of different scenarios. And so I didn't want to be with those guys. I didn't want to be with the clowns. I didn't want to be with the folks that just survived day to day. And so I wanted to go to the airborne, and at least a bare minimum, I wanted to be airborne because that was the next step of any special operations operator, ranger, SEALs. Everyone's got to be airborne to take the next step. And I was like, well, if I do the next steps, I need to at least have the base. And so when I became airborne and jumped out of an aircraft for the first time in the third week of January, of 2004, I didn't have my eyes open. I was singing as loud as I could in my head, and probably out loud too, courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue by Toby Keith, because I was just there was no way I could have done it if I was standing the number one jumper. I don't know what my heart would have done at that moment, but I was about 4 or 5 guys back, and I just followed the leader for the next few jumps. Unfortunately, jump number 4, I had a malfunction and had to pull my reserve parachute, as the instructor said, to save my own life. Got that done. My parents were actually there watching that jump. It was the first jump they ever watched. And so I never invited them back to watch me jump ever again. Graduated from jump school. And then I was a static line jumper then for almost, 10, 11, so 15 years I was a static line jumper, which means low level, a lot of people coming out. When Uncle Sam sends in static line jumpers, he is taking over the entire area with the full amount of force of the U.S. Army, Navy, and Marine Corps. It is not going to be fun for anyone watching that come out. And did that for many, many years. Became a jump master a few years later. I'm currently at about 221 jumps, static line. And every step that I take, that I move up the tier of a more proficient jumper or jump master, I try to bring that education level to many different guys. I've gotten to teach jump master course. I've gotten to teach a lot of different civilian jump round courses as well. But then I know what you want to talk about is probably that high altitude stuff with all the special kids. I left the active duty service in 2017, 18, somewhere around there. Being wounded in Afghanistan, family issues, a lot of stuff. I couldn't take it anymore, and I needed to take a knee. And a very, very good leader of mine, again, called me up, said, "Hey, man, are you going to hurt yourself?" I said, "Dude, it's just the dark, man. I can't do it anymore. The Army's everything I ever wanted to be." He goes, "Well, come on, man. Let's come into the reserves." He goes, "And you know what you need to do? You need to become a parachute rigger." I was like, "Yeah, come on. I'm a combat guy. I don't want to do that." He's like, "No, dude, it'll give you the best break you need. You're so knowledgeable in parachutes. You love doing it. Bring that passion over here." And so I did. I joined the Army Reserves as a parachute rigger. I went from an E6 promotable down to an E4 and had to go back through AIT with a bunch of 21, 19, 18-year-old kids. And I was almost mid 30s by then. That was rough. But went through the course, got it done, came out. I'm with a unit here at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, the 824th Quartermaster, and they have Halo slots. It's traditionally called Military Free Fall School for what you'd actually see it as, but I know a lot of the civilian community calls it Halo, High Altitude Low Opening. And they gave me a shot. They said, "Hey, man, you want to go?" I'm a skydiver already. Okay, let's try it. And so flew out to Yuma, Arizona, right during COVID, right towards the end of December of COVID. They told us I was there 10 to 15 days prior. I had to sit in a barracks room, or it's a hotel, but it's technically a barracks because there's only one bed in every room. And sat there for 15 days watching E and whatever else I could get on the dang TV. And they would bring us food, and we got tested and blah, blah, blah. And then finally the school started, and that was cool because now we learned SF guys, Rangers, everybody have to learn to pack their own parachute in that course. So they had to learn, which made it super easy for me. So that was my lunchtime kind of. I got to sit back and knock those out. But then we went to the vertical wind tunnel. And then we also learned how to fly in what they call stacks. So one parachute's here, you're about 25 feet away, 25 feet up, and you're just flying very close to each other. So the goal and intention of Halo is to be able to exit at about 40,000 feet under oxygen, open your parachute around 35,000 feet, depending on mission sets, and then fly in under canopies with very little radar, notice to you. And so you want to be very close to your team in case something goes wrong. You can take care of each other. And of course, you're under radio communications, navigation equipment on our chest, things like that. It was great. I had some really great instructors. Nate Henderson was fabulous. Once they realized that I was a skydiver and I had a little bit of knowledge, just enough to mess up, they let me have a little bit of fun. Our final graduation jump was from 20,000 feet, or excuse me, 22,000 feet with full equipment, weapon systems, everything. And it sounds fun from the ground. But when you finally realize it's about 2 minutes, almost to 3 minutes of just falling, you kind of get bored. The world is beautiful at that altitude, but it's just kind of boring. Wow. But I came back and had an opportunity to go to the Special Warfare Center here and become the non-commissioned officer in charge of the Halo section. I ran and make sure that all the parachute systems for Halo were up to date, that the automatic emergency opening devices or activation devices were in tolerance, altimeters, everything like that. And then I also made sure that our guys stayed within the regulation and limits of what we're supposed to be able to do in the Army. Because some people get crazy. We're not the Red Bull skydiving team. We're not, anything like that. We're here to perform a job. Our real job is less of the fall and more of canopy work, flying in and hitting pinpoint targets. So you should be very good with your canopy, and not a lot of guys are. So I took some instructions from Paraclete XP out here in Rayford, North Carolina, from Greg Windmiller and a bunch of his guys, Andy Plisko from Evolution Ratings. And they're just some of the world-class canopy guys. and they absolutely 100% showed me what I needed to teach those guys and get guys hitting the target every single time.
So that's interesting. So even with all your training, you're learning from these dudes in the civilian sector, right? Is it?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, and you see that also in, in shooting, for instance, like for decades, spec op guys have been going to train with some professional shooters. And even though those guys aren't military guys, you guys are going to learn something that you can bring back and make the unit better, make the whole, everybody more safe. So that's cool, man. Sometimes, my background's law enforcement, and sometimes we get, what do they call it? Where you are so, it's like training inbred almost. In other words, like you never look outside of your agency because you start to think that, you guys have all the answers. And that's really common with large police departments. They don't often look outside because we got so-and-so could teach this and everything else. But having that other perspective sometimes is huge. And that's sometimes what you need to take your game to the next level. So that's interesting stuff.
Absolutely.
When you jump now, I would imagine every time you do that, you understand the seriousness of a mistake and what can happen, but you're also fairly comfortable with it. So it's, I'm assuming, right? I mean, it's not comfortable, like complacent, but you're confident is what I should say. Tell me about mentally, like right now when you jump, what goes on mentally for you? Is it like no big deal, or is it still every time is a huge deal?
It's a big deal to me. And I've always told myself, I will correct you. Earlier you said military free fall instructor for the military. I'm not instructor yet. I coach right now.
Oh, okay.
But even then, like when I go jump with guys who are very low numbers, or even myself, I'm constantly checking the equipment, constantly making sure my stuff is good. As a parachute rigger in the civilian world and the military, I always have to wear two hats of, hey, I'm going to be the jump master for this, and I got to look at the rigging hat of it too. But the day that it doesn't give me a little bit of fear and I don't have a little bit of anxiety towards something of the jump, I just, there's no way I'll do it again. I would walk away because I think you lose the respect. I think not fear doesn't equal respect, but that double check of your equipment, talking shooting, before we go out, and we make sure our optics have the batteries, before we go out, we're making sure that every magazine is full, and that our weapon is somewhat clean for the environment that we're in. And do I have extra batteries for whatever I'm using, whether it be a long scope, short, anything like that, or my NVGs, and it's just, I can't, there's no way. My wife jumps, she's a skydiver too. And it's still, if I don't feel that fear with either of us going up, it worries me, concerns me. Now, as we get better and better and better, do we take a little bit more chance? Do we take, hey, I'm not going to wear gloves this jump, or I'm not going to wear over the ankle boots, or I might jump in shorts or something silly. Yeah. I believe as skydivers, most folks do that. But yeah, absolutely learning from the civilian world, whether it be shooting. I have a good friend of mine who is a 3-gun shooter, who's trying to get me more and more to that world. Cause I brought him into skydiving. So he's like, all right, now you got to get into my thing. And I'm like, these are very expensive hobbies, bud. But, absolutely. It's just learning it all over. I've the civilian world and the military and the police department. I've actually worked with multiple police departments for some free fall stuff, which they were doing it for fun, but it was team building. And then I've also worked with some 3-letter agencies for more tactical and operational things.
Yeah, that's very cool. Man, you have a ton of experience with that. I would never jump out of an airplane that just, some things we'll do, some things we won't do. That's just one that I don't know, man. I respect you for doing it. And I know it's probably fun, but that's not on my to-do list. But the closest thing I have to that, which is not close, but at SWAT school, we had, minimal training about rappelling. And then we went out, I'm talking like a 5-minute tutorial where we tied our own seat. And then we're up there 7 stories up, and I'm thinking, Jesus, you got tough dudes, you got Marines, everything else. former Marines. They're all cops now. But even the toughest guy, his voice goes up a few octaves on rappel. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you just know with that, I know that like I have to do it, and I'm going to do it, and I'm going to overcome that fear. Cause like you, I'm not crazy about heights. I don't know that really a lot of people are, but that was just something that I wanted to be a SWAT cop. So I knew that was one of the things I had to do. And then after 2 or 3 times, then it started to be a little bit less stressful and a little bit, dare I say, maybe fun. I don't know if I would say fun, but it was more exciting and more tolerable. But I was glad that I pushed through that, and most people did. But when you're up there, that like, if you screw up, I mean, even just rappelling 7 stories, if you screw up, you're going to hit the ground hard, or you're going to tear, guys tear their bicep muscle and all kinds of things. Not as dangerous as jumping out of an airplane, but still that kind of thing where if you're too afraid, it can kind of interfere with your performance, right? So you're not going to do things right. But if you're not a little bit afraid, that's probably not a good headspace to be in either.
Tell me about your first Aussie rappel, because that was one of the worst rappels I ever had to do off a helicopter skid.
No, I didn't do that one. We went back, and then we did what we call, I think, a spider roll, where you kind of, I don't know if the terminology is the same, but you're kind of laying on it, and then you kind of come off. Some of the guys did the Aussie, but I was good with that. But I almost think that spider roll, or whatever it is, where you're kind of laying and you just kind of let your feet come off, was less stressful than when you're leaning back. They're like, lean back, lean back, lean back. It's like, and instead of like stepping off like a normal human would do, like we were taught to do in the 5-minute tutorial.
Yep.
For some reason, I thought I was a ninja or something. And I like jumped off, and then I ended up ass over tea kettle, and they're yelling at me, come on, get down. You got people to shoot or whatever. So it was fun. Looking back, it was fun. But that's I can't imagine, looking out, getting ready to jump out of a plane. Are there people, there's got to be people that decide they're not going to do it, right?
So, unfortunately, there's guys that go to the course that are static line jumpers that will go to the course, and they'll get 1 or 2 jumps in and just say, hey, this isn't for me. I can't do this. I had one in my class. There's some guys that I worked with that decided it wasn't for them. And it's not for everybody, and that's okay. I think as a leader, one of the biggest things is, whether it be free fall or static line, like when I was in the static line units specifically, I see that you need to go to airborne school, because how am I going to lead you as a jumper if I have to get there on the ground? If I can't make it into combat with you because I don't want to exit the aircraft, how am I supposed to do that? How do I train all the time with you consistently? And then when it comes time to do the one thing we're all here to do, how do I do that? And so I see that, but in everywhere else, when that badge is kind of more of just a badge more than it is a way to get to work, as we call it. There's no need for some of the guys to do the high altitude. There's no need, when free fall for all was going on in the SF community, some guys, they didn't get to go to be actual Green Berets because they didn't pass that course. And now, again, I'm not a Green Beret, but talking with some of the guys that, were there during that time, it was very inefficient and unfortunate, because a lot of those guys were never going to go to a Halo team. They were going to go to a dive team or somewhere else, and it didn't make any sense. So I'm glad they got rid of that. And I really feel bad for any of those guys, if that's true, that they did get knocked out of that.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to say it, as you guys are going to work. I mean, that jump is like, the jump could kill you.
It's your morning commute.
But that's exactly. But that just like your morning commute could kill you. Yeah. No, that's true. But in law enforcement, when we did that rappelling at SWAT school, it was like most of us worked in jurisdictions where there's not even a 4-story building. I don't think there may be now, but at the time where I worked, so it's like it was just a team building thing. So that was part of it too. Is like this is just. It's not even really job related. I mean, I guess it's related, but it's not something that we're going to be doing. Whereas if you worked for, Las Vegas Metro SWAT or something like that, that may be something that you could conceivably do. So, but no, interesting stuff. Hey, talk a little bit about the Round Canopy, what that means and what that is, and kind of your role, what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I got introduced to Round Canopy civilian jumping through the Round Canopy Parachute Team over in Europe. Basically, I found a group of Europeans who were so honored just by the way the Americans fought in World War II, everything. They were so happy, and they wanted to keep the memory of all those guys alive. I mean, just a massive following of Europeans that were like, no, we are so proud of the American paratrooper that we pay our own money, sometimes hundreds and hundreds of euros, to get these aircraft here. They jump old C-47s, which actually flew during D-Day, most of them, and they jump at historic drop zones. So whenever you go and you jump with the Round Canopy Parachute Team in Palaca, Florida, which is the U.S. chapter there, you have Liberty Jump Team in Corsicana, Texas. You have All Airborne Battalion out of, believe they're in Texas as well. I'd have to look. I know their jump school is in Toccoa, Georgia, which is where the original paratroopers jump. You have Phantom Airborne Brigade, but all those teams, they all kind of bring into this one culture of not ever losing the names of those that came before us as paratroopers, as elite sky soldiers. And so my first time, it was the year that President Obama had cut the funding. So there wasn't a real large military presence at all in Normandy whatsoever. So a group of us got our money together. We were stationed in Germany. We drove a singular vehicle out to England in the actual World War II M42 uniforms. So we were all garbed up. So every time we got out to get more petrol, people were looking at us like, what's going on? Until we got into the Normandy area in England, and they were like a little bit more, I understand, because they knew. But it is one of the coolest things, because there we got interviewed by the BBC, we got interviewed by a few other different news organizations, and got to spread what these groups do. And to me, what these groups do, and the reason I was so set on helping bring a lot of that over when I got asked the opportunity to bring Round Canopy Parachute Team here to the U.S., and I got asked to help start up a few of the other teams, and or just even be a member. Liberty Jump Teams even just asked me to be a member, and that was huge that they are asking, because they have plenty of members, but they recognize that I have a passion for this, and they asked me to come over and be a member, and that's massive. Thank you to them. But it is the veteran cause of, as paratroopers and as airborne soldiers, we were told we were special, not just by our mamas, but by other folks. And so when you go through the world as a 17, 18, 19, 20, 22-year-old, leading soldiers into combat, being responsible for $1 million worth of equipment, doing, shooting, killing the enemy, and just doing what you were trained to do to protect, whether people say freedom, liberty, democracy, whatever it is through the world that you believe you did as your time as a soldier, it doesn't compute, or it doesn't compute to civilians when you try to tell them that. When I try to give them the passion of this. And so my wife has always been like, you're a little weird. You're off. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. But when we go and we bring all these guys and gals together, they get to see us in our environment, talking to other paratroopers, talking to people that when you walk up, they're going to call you the most gross names and tell you how fat you've gotten, and that oh my God, you're this, you're that. But when you walk away, they're going to be like, hey man, that person right there is a great person. What a great human being. And it's very reversed in the civilian world, people talk behind your back and things, but we get to bring those people together and show families, children, why dad or mommy is a little weird. Why they're a little strange. Why do they wear Ranger panties when they're mowing their lawn with Crocs on? Like, what is this weird person? And then they come to one of our events and they see all the rest of these weirdos, and they're like, oh, wow. And I mean, we're talking guys from Vietnam that we have Korean war vets that have come. We just had an 82-year-old Marine come out to Palaca and make one final jump that he wanted to do. We've done so much, and I say we, I mean all the community, and I'm included to the community, but there's individuals out there that just take it above and beyond. There's another organization called W&R Vets that specifically fund guys to get into this training. So guys that never had a chance to get into static line parachuting, whether they're police officers, firefighters, or just Army, Navy, Marines that never got the opportunity, they fund the guys at no cost to them to come down. 22 Mohawks. Oh, what a great organization does the same thing, that brings all these people together for the opportunity to join another brotherhood or sisterhood family. And we just take care of each other. And I've heard so many spouses talk to other spouses and go, if it weren't for this community helping me understand my service member, I would have divorced them a long time ago.
Wow.
I would have left. Like I never understood it until I came down here. And we have guys that come out to these events that don't jump anymore. They just come to the event to hang out, to be with their friends, and they spend their $300-400 plane ticket, get their $34, $50 a night hotel room, whatever it may be, there in Palatka or, in Georgia. And it's just, these guys come out and it's the next day. We hold 2 events every year. Every team holds at least 2 events every year. And it's the next thing to get them to the next day. It's that everything else in the darkness, and we are their light. And it is why it is so amazing that we have these opportunities.
Yeah, the jumping is great, but it's more about community, it sounds like, than the actual jumps.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Hey, so you also have kind of a different, based on your background that you've just talked about, kind of a different profession where you have a neighborhood home improvement. Is that the name of your company?
So I have neighborhood home improvement. We're more of originally I started a handyman business, leaving the military, just helping do small home improvements for realty companies. And then there was an old folks home or senior living that they just needed people to hang pictures. And I'd go in there and help folks out or build an IKEA piece or whatever. I actually started that business with a electric lawnmower that was plug-in. That's what I could afford at the time. And so I just started mowing lawns and getting some money and built a business to where eventually I remodeled Winn-Dixies up and down the East Coast, from Miami, all the way from Key West to the bottom of South Carolina. And my now wife and I, at the time she was my girlfriend, we traveled up and down, ripping out the old decor, patching and repairing walls, along with some employees, building that. And I learned that through the engineer corps, through the military, because again, my first sergeant's like, hey, check it out. Cool. Your job is to shoot long range at people and to blow up, doors, windows, walls. However, you need to have a better job life. And so he taught us to go be a horizontal engineer, go be a vertical engineer, to learn a little bit of plumbing. So he made us very well-rounded. So, I can patch and repair walls. And so I wanted to take that same concept, and whenever we would travel to a new location, I would go into the American Legion and I'd go into the VFW and I'd say, hey, do you have somebody that probably couldn't get hired at a regular job because they've, when they got back from Iraq or wherever, Vietnam, they just hit rock bottom and did drugs. They got in trouble. They're a risky hire. I said, I want those people. And so I started hiring those people and putting a little bit extra money in their paycheck, a little bit here and there to help out. And we would help veterans that way. Now, again, we couldn't stay there. But my wife and I, we had an RV, a 35-foot fifth wheel, had 2 bedrooms, 2 baths, had a bunkhouse in the back, basically. And so we would drag that and we'd house them for a little bit, get them on their feet while we were there working in that area for maybe a month or 2. And then, hopefully try to find them an organization to help them out. And so we did that up and down the East Coast for about a year and some change until the parachute rigging field called me. And so I finally got to go to the AIT, and then I deployed. And so we passed that business along. I still help a little bit here with that. That's more out of Georgia and Hinesville, Georgia. I have some guys down there that still carry on the name of it, and hoping that they're doing great and doing what they can. I started a sewing and rigging business, a parachute rigging called So Fast, SEW fast, but it's also how fast some of us big boys fall when we're in free fall. We fall so dang fast. And so the idea behind that is to get young soldiers, specifically these non-combat types, an opportunity to see that there's other jobs in the world, um, that you would never guess, that there is such a demand for parachute riggers. There's such a demand for the guys that do admin work. There's a demand out there for a lot of these job fields that kids, they're not sergeant majors. We're not talking sergeant majors, guys that have been in the field for a long time, guys and gals at first sergeants and so on and so forth that, make their deals and they eventually work for a big company or something. Talking to these 4 or 5 year guys that go in and they're like, man, I just can't stay in the military. I had a bad leader. I have whatever. I want to show them there's opportunities out here in the civilian world that they don't have to fear staying in that position and fear and just hate their lives and then eventually do something that they or their family will regret. So we want to show them, not to take anything away from the military, but hey guys, there is an opportunity out here in the civilian world. There's so much work. I've never been without a job in my entire life from the age of 16 up. Between working at Home Depot, I used to work at Blockbuster. That'll throw you back some years.
Yeah.
But we want to create an environment that helps show folks that you can do it. And it is, it's not, I don't want to say easy, but it's doable. We can do that. And yeah, you're not going to drive around in, a Dodge Ram 3500 your first year out of the military. You're not going to, have a brand new house. You're not going to have the newest cell phones and all these things. But if you, proportion your life to what you need, not what you want, what you need, and start these little businesses, there's so much work out there that, people laugh at me all the time because I'll hand people's names out and I'll say, hey, take this guy. Hey, take that guy. Hey, take this guy. And they're like, hey, dude, you're giving up work. I was like, I have a lot already.
Yeah.
And my family and I, we're doing great. So we want to pass that on to everyone.
Well, that's cool though. It's like teaching people to build on the skills that they learned in the military. And now what profession can you do using those skills? And that's kind of like what I tell people, even in law enforcement is, hey, get as much training as you can. And you might not love every single, aspect of the training that you take, but a lot of that, you never know what you are going to fall in love with. For instance, like I was a pretty good shot, but I never really had a burning desire to go to firearms instructor school. And then I went and it changed the course of my life. You know what I mean? As far as writing for guns and ammo and all, I never thought I would do any of that, but it's again, if you have an open mind, then that helps. But what I really like is a lot of what you're doing in true leadership fashion is you're helping others, man. I see that in a lot of the things that you're talking about. You're helping others and you're being a leader to them the way that some people were leaders and mentors to you. And that's awesome, man, to give back like that. So thank you for that, brother. As we start to wind down, anything else that you want to hit on and for sure let people know where they can go as far as following what you have going on and some of the things that you're up to?
Yeah, absolutely. Truly blessed. This opportunity here specifically came out of the Round Canopy community. Somebody who's known me for a while said, hey, I have this opportunity. I'd love for you to tell your story. This is the second podcast I've ever done. I don't want to say I never have the intention to make $1 billion or $1 million. Like, yeah, I want to work hard and I want my time to be worth it. But I'm very much on the aspect of if I make $1 million, then Ben's got $1 million. But if I make all my friends millionaires and we all work hard together and we all have our things, then we all have that asset together. I truly, truly love all these organizations between the American Legion, VFW, 40 and 8, the Military Order of the Purple Heart. I try to help other veteran companies as they come up. I would say LEO firefighters, first responders and military members. There's organizations out there for all of us to help us all. And my request to you is find them, but don't just give. And if you don't have money, give your time. Your time is worth so much more than a $100 donation to these organizations. I have found that out as a worker bee for all these organizations. I don't have the money to hand out. I don't have the things to fly to every convention or everything like that, but just a little bit of time sitting out and trying to find somebody and reaching out for help. I'll give you one last story. A few years ago, I bought an impact wrench for my truck and a socket set. And now, as dangerous as it is, always keeping our head on the swivel. Whenever I see folks that are stranded on the side of the road, I envision my 13-year-old daughter, when she gets a vehicle, or my wife, and I always stop and I try to help. And one of the things when people go, "Oh, can I give you $1? Can I give you some money? Can I do this?" I don't want any of the money. What I tell them to do, and I'll tell everyone at the end of this podcast, is be the change you want to see in the world and just help. Even if it takes an extra 5 minutes of your drive that day, go off and help somebody. And yeah, we all do it for the good karma in the end. I thoroughly believe that, we all have some little bit of motive, but you're going to feel great. And at the end of the night, it's just when I've got that brand new baby, 10-day-old baby screaming in my ear, and the 19-month-old is just trying to climb up me because he wants to, be held to. Those are my blessings from everything I've done. And it's just, I hope everyone gets the opportunity, whatever sport you're in, shooting, 3-gun, 2-gun, comp shoots, parachuting, whatever you're doing, build your community, build your friend community, build outside that friend community, and start inviting folks in.
That's awesome, man. Being welcoming. Yeah. Being inclusive rather than exclusive, I think, is a big deal. Great talking to you, Ben. Hey, where can people go to find out more about you, social media and all that stuff? Do you do all that?
Yeah, so I've got Vanbo, VANBO 173 is my Instagram. That's kind of where I've started getting more of the public stuff. The Facebook is more for the grandparents to see the kids. We're working on more things, but please check out Round Canopy USA or rcptusa.org. Also check out All Airborne Battalion. Please Google Liberty Jump Team. Those guys, I'm always traveling with those guys. I just partnered with another company, WWII Energy, out of Madison, Mississippi. Nice. Some of you guys know Justin Danger Nunley. That dude, he became one of the owners. But these organizations are just at the forefront. W&R vets. You can find me. I'm always doing something with those, whether it's a photo shoot at 30,000 feet, trying to get, a couple extra likes, whether getting pied in the face. I've done bonkers things. I got my head shaved in a mohawk right before I was supposed to take maternity photos for 22 Mohawks up in the Northeast. And every single one of these organizations, you can find a photo of me doing something goofy, or the opportunity for you guys to either help or include yourself. Come out and jump with us and learn about it. And we're happy to bring you into our community. Awesome, brother. Thank you so much for being here today. I appreciate it, Ben. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I hope you the best. Well, that's a wrap for this episode with Ben Van Buren. If this episode resonated with you, be sure and let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Aimpoint's Taking Aim Podcast. We'll see you next time.